We gonna handle this shit like businessmen. Sell the shit, make the profit.
Disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is, it doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess, or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, you know, I've been on a what? Mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and the pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of Ritalin. I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the gas. No time to wait though. Elon Musk, I'm trying to bankroll. New Tesla just cause I say so. Electric whip like Ivan Vanko. I just did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, you know, I've been on a mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice. I'm a baddie, she bad, but she totally nice. It was a blue and a toast with like white. They complete me, child at the soul for my leg. He knew it for sure, but it.
What is up, party people? It's going to be a fun one. We finally get to go do the topics that I really, really enjoy. And at the same time, get to understand why I think the way I do about climate change. I want to get your guys' views on it. This will absolutely be an open panel. I'm going to put the link out there in a half a second. There are things I wanted to discuss first. So everyone understands, I am streaming from Rumble. Don't know how that's going to go. I've never done it before, so we'll see. That link is in the chat, the description, but I don't know how that's going to work, so we'll see. Other than that, Travis, I see you out there, my friend. I did see the videos that you sent in the MMM, and I absolutely will be talking about that at some point in time. You know how I roll. I'm going to review it and all that good stuff. But what's up, Gary? How you doing, sir? Gary says it's a climate scam. What's up, Robert Page? How you doing, sir? Omnivore, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. I will put the link in the chat in a half a second. What's up, Travis? What is up, Sean? How you doing? Yeah, so the topic is today, it's going to be basically everything to do with climate change, global warming, weather modification, geoengineering, all of the above, but not all of it, because there's so much to talk about. It'd be impossible to do it in one stream, but there will be definite key points that I want to discuss about this because, as far as I'm concerned, it's a hot topic, and the information that is provided to the public, I 100% feel is watered down propaganda crap bullshit. Don't take that statement for everything, but it is part of my reasoning, and you'll hear it, I guess. I guess it'll be something that will be very obvious to you once I get through it. I'm going to put Tex up here because Tex is here. Good morning, Tex.
Good morning, Shawn. I am fucking tired.
I am extremely tired too. 3 a.m. is not a good time to go to sleep and then decide to wake up and do a live stream.
Yeah, you gotta start these streams just a smidge later if we're gonna keep staying up so late.
No, I really like this time slot.
Fair enough.
But that also means, hey, when we hang out, we should like not hang out until 3. But then I think, yeah, we'll probably not stop doing that. So
Yeah. I was just gonna say, we're stuck in a rock and a hard place here.
yeah, it's going to be something to get used to. But hey, I don't do it every single day, so it's okay. And I don't
No,
live stream.
absolutely not.
I don't live stream
I'm
on
gonna let
weekends.
you know. I was gonna say, yeah, Saturday, tomorrow, I'm going to bed at 10. Do not care. I'm zonking out early.
Yes. Well, tonight's going to be fun. And if for those that don't know, join the MMM and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. Sean Smith says in the chat, weather modification, or there's a company called Weather Modification Inc. Yes, weather. We're going to discuss that, but I wanted to get to this part first. Tex, you have been. Actually, hang on. I don't know if I'm going to do camera today. I don't have my hat. Anyway, it's so much easier if I have my camera on, but I feel old. I'm so old, Tex. I don't care.
Oh, don't start being self-conscious. You didn't wear a hat all last night.
There you go.
What are you worried about?
Okay, I'm there. There, I got people have grays. They're there. Okay, so we were talking about this yesterday. This became a topic. It is kind of encompassed in a lot. So it's when I say this, it's not everything, but it's part of what we talked about. Climate change, CO2 readings, how they do it. It kind of touched in little things like that. I want to get your view because as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a topic you know, but not a topic you really know about a lot of.
Yeah, essentially,
Oh,
it's
wait,
a
stop.
topic that I have.
But hang on. Before you start, I apologize. Good morning, Omni.
Hey,
Let me get you up here so everyone can see you. I'm gonna get Travis in here real quick. Good morning,
Perfect.
Travis.
Mic check, mic check.
We hear
Yep.
you loud and clear, sir.
Mike sounds nice. Check one.
All right, so I do apologize, Tex. I did want to get them in here real quick because they were sitting around. You go ahead and continue.
No, you're fine. You don't have to apologize. Because I'm happy they're here. Hi guys, welcome
Hey.
to the party. The fuckery. So essentially, there's certain parts of it that I do have interest in that have piqued my interest, mainly because of the agriculture and the technology advancements that are going on here in Texas and how that's having direct effect on agriculture. So it is something that I have looked at surface level, but I have not delved into it. So hopefully we'll have Totoro in here as well, and have a really good in-depth discussion on the matters.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not being from Texas. I born and raised California, and this is the big thing. Fracking is not a huge thing in California. If there was fracking in California, it's very small pockets. With the research I've done, because I've been doing the weather modification, climate change type topic, I've been doing the research on this for a decade at least. And a lot of the things that people aren't really aware of are the risk factors because they're not really presented. They don't sell the risk, they sell the reward.
Right.
So when I started looking into a lot of how things were working, primarily when we start talking about the push for renewables, if you don't understand that the Midwest is filled with oil and the fossil fuel economy is strongly forced by this, they're not going anywhere. When I say this, what I'm talking about, I'm going to turn the cameras, our screens off so people can see this real quick. The screen you guys see in the background, I gotta figure out how to do this. If I don't have a thing that has no camera. That's what it is. That's weird. Okay, the camera, how will I do this? Watch this. Move. Boom. Okay, so this, you guys probably, I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you see me moving my screen around and shit?
Yeah, you're in the
No.
center.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I see you in the center of the presentation. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you're going to see me move. Hang on. Okay,
There
so
you go.
what you guys are seeing in the background, my background of this for the screen, if you guys don't know, the government system obviously listens to agencies. There's an agency called the IPCC. It is basically the governments of the world's advisor for climate change, weather, and all that kind of stuff. This is kind of like what they said it is what needs to happen or else. The or else is basically the earth warms and ice melts. We'll go into that. And things start happening. Climates start changing, et cetera, which is starting to happen. But more importantly, is the goals that we must reach by 2030 and 2050. This is when my opinion of the climate topic comes to this climate scam. And here's why. You don't push the importance of renewables and how we need to get away from fossil fuels while opening up 19 million acres of national protected forest for drilling. If you don't know who did that, that was our friend Trump. When he got into office, the first year, he opened up 19 million acres in North America for drilling. That was after Obama restricted drilling on land and restricted a lot of the oil drilling offshores close to the United States. There was a lot of talk about what to do with the carbon dioxide. They are in a big process of carbon capture at these plants. If you don't know what this is, any coal plant, any plant, power plant, any material plant you can think of that produces greenhouse gases. A bill passed probably about 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, that basically started making truck drivers, these plant industry plants, start using these things called scrubbers. The job of these scrubbers is to pull as much CO2 from the exhaust as they can so it doesn't get into the atmosphere. What they do at this point is they capture it. It's called carbon capture. Now they got two choices. This is when it gets fun. This is when we start talking about the fracking tech. So you're going to enjoy this after this little rant. So what happens is that these industries capture it. They then pressurize it and put it into a truck. That truck does one or two things. It either is sold back to petroleum companies. If you don't know what that means, it means what happens is a petroleum company will then do what I call reverse fracking. Basically, what they do is they inject the CO2 that they've captured. What it does is it pulls the oil out of old wells, and they're able to get more oil. Because of that, I don't see the purpose of capturing CO2 out of the atmosphere for it to be released again and or used to add to the situation. Now we get back to what the IPCC says, because what I just said is very important. Petroleum companies are using it to produce more oil. Now here we go. The IPCC states that by 2030, we need to reduce our CO2 emissions by 45%. As of right now, 2024, we are at 3%. We have reduced carbon usage and that we produce into the atmosphere. We've only reduced it by 3% globally. The second one is we need to be reliable on renewable energy by 85%. So 85% of the world's, this is not just one country, 85% of the world needs to be reliant on renewable energy. By 2050, we will be producing 0 carbon emissions. It sounds kind of far-fetched, but that is their goal for this. Number 7 is the fourth one is my favorite. By 2050, we will need 7. I forget the name of how they. I'm pretty smart.
Sean.
Yeah.
Well, can you go back? Are you going to elaborate on how they said that they're going to be eliminated?
Okay, which one? We can stop on any point. Which one did you want to talk about?
I think you just said by whatever year it was going to be completely eliminated.
Yeah, 2050.
Okay. Like, how is it because they're going to move away from fossil fuel? Or
yes.
What?
Yes. The goal would be for to be at 85%, reusing 85%, relying on 85% of our energy to be through renewables. That would be the tailoring away from fossil fuels. At that point, it'd be just using reserves by 2050. No longer drilling, no longer producing fossil fuel energy. It is a very far-fetched idea. The idea would be that the technology would be able to capture all greenhouse gases rather than only a certain select amount right now, because there is obviously an allowance that's going to be released into the atmosphere still. The fourth one was the big one. So to support this idea, more crops need to be grown to support more people, because obviously the fossil fuel industry is gone. It would be let me look it up real quick because I keep forgetting the name. The TM at the end of that is very important. I need to see what it is. IPC 7TM squared. Okay, so basically it is the equivalent to metric acres. So I'm going to show you. So basically what it is 7% of our farmlands that we have now, we need 7% more. So on top of what we have. So more agricultural land would be needed. And then by 2050, we will be at zero. I'm sorry, that third one we were talking about would be what they consider the net zero. That makes more sense now. So that's that tapering down, and then by the end of the year being at zero. These numbers sound weird and ridiculous because it is. This was put out in 2019. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like they're very far-fetched and impossible to get to. The reason, like I was saying before, is the fracking issue. Fracking is the equivalent of making fault lines, basically, for the means of getting small pockets of these fossil fuels and renewables. Do you guys know a lot about fracking, or is it just the basic mainstream idea of what it is?
All I know is that whoever came up with the name had never watched the new Battlestar Galactica.
Otherwise, it'd be like, it's plagiarism. Okay, so
Well, unless they're swear words.
Just real quick. It's been a while since I've heard you talk about this topic, Sean, and I know that you've done this research that long. But are you of the mind that the mainstream media presentation of the narrative for what global warming and climate change is, do you stand behind that, or are you doing the research that you're doing and you have a different take on what the spin is?
Okay. When it comes to quote unquote global warming, the effects of climate change, 1,000% true. It is not. I don't think that is up for debate at all. The information that is provided, the confidence and predictability that people have, the solutions that they are putting forth for this are bullshit. It's propaganda bullshit. I don't think anybody can say climate change is not real. The argument starts when we start talking about what is natural climate change versus man-made climate change and what will happen next. That, I think, is what is up for debate. That is what I think mainstream pushes propaganda through.
So I have questions about that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you think that if mankind were to stop doing all of the stuff that they say that we're doing that's causing climate change right now, do you think that that would stop the predictions of climate change, or do you think that something else is driving the increasing change in our climate?
Yeah, I think Earth does what Earth does. If you look at the trends from a million years ago, we'll start from CO2 levels have been tremendously higher. We find out, like in core samples, the difference is we also can contribute large scale events to those, but even then we're still using this buffer, right? Carbon dioxide levels 10,000 years ago are carbon dioxide levels of 2,000 years within that buffer. It's not an accurate reading, but they perceive it to be, our numbers are so high right now, what are we going to do? I think Earth does this. I think this is a normal thing that Earth will do. Have we added to it? Abso-fucking-lutely. And I've always said this. I say, if you doubt that we have anything to do with it, go sit in your fucking car in your garage and turn the car on. And then tell me that that we aren't affecting the atmosphere, right? I mean, that's just that's how you.
I got a catalytic converter, boy.
So hang on. So I consider this to be kind of I don't like that answer because to me it's not. You haven't answered the question. You kind of said
if
stuff.
I could.
Okay, go ahead.
If you give me the chance, the opportunity. So first I want to double check and clarify because again, I'm sleep deprived. So I want to make sure I'm understanding what your question is before I try to address your question. So you're asking if you feel like there is some reason to be distrustful of mainstream media when it comes to the discussion of fracking and climate change, or are you saying that we need to more or less discuss government interference and its pros and cons when it comes to fracking?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
So
I'm asking you, like, are you wanting to strictly focus on media propaganda?
I want to find out what we think. I want to find out the large scale scope of this discussion. So I think that it is pretty clear that climate change is mostly driven by mankind. I don't know what else it would possibly be. The idea that Earth does this, okay, that sounds interesting. What's the evidence that Earth is doing this? How is Earth doing it, etc., etc.? And I think that the recommendations from the scientific community are probably the best information that we have on what the results of climate change could be. So
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so anyway, so that's where I stand.
Okay. Let me respond to what you just said. The evidence that it is not 100% man-made is climates change. Antarctica had a forest on it once, right?
Yep.
Egypt wasn't always a desert, et cetera, et cetera. Those are my evidence that Earth has always done this.
Okay.
So
Do
when
you know why? Do you know why I don't find that to be an answer to what I said?
I don't.
I want to raise my hand too, but I'll wait my turn.
Okay, you're right after Omni. I'll let you go, Travis. Go ahead, Omni. I don't.
So the reason why I don't consider it to be a response to what I said is we've seen greenhouse emissions go up dramatically in the past 100 years. If we don't think that greenhouse emissions are responsible for the rising, changing climate, I can tell you about continental drift, but we know continental drift isn't what's causing these temperatures to increase. We know
Why?
the sun's out because the continents haven't drifted much in the past 100 years.
Okay. Have we had different climate? Like, for instance, when you say that.
Let me finish my point.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I don't consider it could be some unknown reason. There could be some unknown reason behind this, where something that we can't quite get a handle on is happening. I don't think that that's a legitimate position. It's that's saying, well, there's all this other evidence over here, but I'm going to discount it in favor of we don't know. And I don't think there's a great case for we don't know. So either if you think that the predictions of what will happen because of climate change are potentially accurate,
Okay.
i.e. the various disasters, then where do you come? Where would you? How much of a problem do you think this is?
Well, hang on. So, and Travis, you're next. But I want to say this, and I want to just add more evidence to Earth has done this forever. And I don't know how you refute this because I gave you examples, but you do know that like we've gone in and out of ice ages, right?
Yeah. Do you know why I don't think that's an answer?
Again, I think I know why because it's not relevant to you. But the realization is that you asked me to show you evidence that climate change has been going on prior to the 100 years, and
Not
I can
what
show
I
you.
asked. No, I didn't ask for that. No.
Okay, then maybe re-clarify what you asked because I'm very confused by what you asked. Then
I'm sure. So what I'm asking for is
Snarky, my
if
word.
you think, well, when somebody says they're very confused, usually that's rhetoric. Okay, I don't think that this is that confusing. You mentioned changes that occurred millions of years ago being responsible for the change of climate. I'm asking.
wait. I didn't say that. I didn't say things that happened millions of years ago are the reason things are happening now. I said that Earth has been doing this for millions of years, and to think that we are the reason things are doing things, that things are changing, is egotistical. Earth has been changed. The climate has changed on Earth for millions of years. So to think that that Earth suddenly stopped doing that, and then when we started doing our industrial period started, suddenly it started up again. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
So fellas, can we let Travis interject in here real
I
fast?
apologize, Travis.
Travis, you have the floor, hon.
No, I mean that's okay. I'm probably just gonna piss turpentine on this bonfire, but I'm kind of along the lines with where Omnivore is coming from. I question the narrative. I'm not going to say that I know all things, but I don't believe these Ice Age bullshit, millions of years bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate the research that you've been doing, Shawn, and I can imagine that you can just kind of like transpose maybe some critical analyses that you've had of the information that you've gotten, just like as I've looked into research and refraction, I'm squinting my eyes and going, I don't think that I believe this information. So I guess what I'm hearing you say, Shawn, is ultimately, Shawn, you're just regurgitating a narrative that you have no direct experience for to verify. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you've done this research, and I appreciate the fact that you seem to be convinced of X, Y, or Z, but ultimately, you're just believing pieces of paper that you're reading.
Well, it's
But
not
the
just piece of
same could be
paper.
said for any rhetoric, could it not?
Yeah, but
Yeah, absolutely. As long as we understand that, I'm fine. I just want to make that point. That's all.
okay.
Right.
I'm going to answer to Omni uh, Blue. We'll get to the fracking part. We kind of digress, but it's okay because we have time. Omni is typing in the private chat, and I want to respond to it because I see exactly what you're asking, and I can respond to what you're asking here. You said you said the reason we can't say Earth does this is because Earth warming is nothing like it has been or we're seeing in history. I want to make something very clear, and this is where the propaganda I think starts. When you say that we've seen in history, and that would be recorded data. When we look at core samples, we are getting a gap. It's a buffer. It's not an accurate. This year it did this. This year it did that. There's like 100 to 1,000 years to whatever gap buffer in that range. So when you say we haven't seen warming, that's not true. We've had much higher warming because we had an ice age that isn't here anymore. The idea that climate, when I brought up Egypt, when I brought up Antarctica, and you said in here that those things happened long time ago, it just shows you that it does have a swing. Climates do change. We know they changed. Deserts weren't deserts a certain time ago, and we're seeing a shift now. I get that what you're saying, that at a certain point that it has been ramped up by us. I fully acknowledge that. I thought you knew that by my garage in the car analogy. Analogy. There you go. Bam. The idea that you think prior to 100 years, Earth has been just stable is what makes me go, you listen to propaganda. Now to Travis, I am far from the mainstream. Everything that I think happened in the past as to climates, ice ages, is based on evidence. I mean, it's not a on paper or just read something. I can tangibly look at evidence that shows this. What you type in text?
Yeah, right. She's tippity tapping away.
Can you hear it? I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. You were going at it, sister.
No, I have a typewriter keyboard. But let me just say this, please, so I can address Omnivore real fast, because I think there's a disconnect going on here. Shawn is not denying climate change.
Nope.
Okay? That's not what he's doing. He is not denying climate change. I think the intention of what Shawn is trying to explain here is that buying into the rhetoric that at the individual level, we have done something to exacerbate temperatures rising is bullshit. Corporations are the main reason. It is a small percentage of the population that is creating the largest amount of emission.
Yeah.
So to
Which
a certain
is the
extent,
elite.
yes, the media, yeah, exactly. The media does bastardize and play into propagated rhetoric. And I think because the science community understands what's at stake, they are playing like a special interest group. So they are allowing that rhetoric to be perpetrated within media. But I can understand the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, sorry.
So that's all I wanted to say real fast. Shawn and I are not climate change deniers. We're just trying to explain kind of what our long-winded discussion was last night, and he's jumping a little bit all over the place about it. So just bear with him.
I'm nerding out. I'm sorry. I do apologize. Like you said, it's not a denial. It's definitely not a denial, and it's definitely not a denial. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think Latex said something that's entirely perpendicular to what you said, or TexLex. Sorry.
That was good though.
I was thinking of the market TexLex. So the if we agree that the increase in CO2 is responsible for the warming temperatures, then yeah, we should definitely be talking about what industries are doing that and what's responsible and whether or not individual people, blah 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 blah. I don't think, but if we're just saying Earth just does this, that's like those are two different dimensions of the discussion. Then,
Okay,
if Earth just does this, then we don't think it's the rise in CO2 emissions.
No,
Well,
why?
Earth has
Just
done
real quick,
something
Sean, I'm
similar.
sorry.
We've had 6 prior extinction eras, right? So we can see through history, through science, that similar events have happened. We have ancient mushrooms that are hundreds of feet tall, okay, that fed off of CO2 emissions. So we know with a certain level of certainty that yes, there is a natural fluctuation in CO2 within our atmosphere. And this is a trend that Earth has exhibited prior.
All
Now,
right,
have
Sam,
we
I just have a question
exacerbated
real
it?
quick.
Yes. Go ahead.
What evidence do you have of these 100-foot tall mushrooms?
I can send it to you.
I would assume it'd be
Okay.
fossil records,
I'm just asking. I'm just
materials that are
curious.
found, all the above. Okay, so now I think me and Omni are actually near the same page. Now here's where the problem starts, Omni, because what you just posted, and Blue had said something in there. Blue said, "We've been building CO2 or SO scrubbers since 1970. Shawn, CO2 capture is completely different and much more difficult." Yes, Blue, but the difference is what they're doing with it. The idea is to capture, to not release it into, or let me back up. Let me make it more clear, because this is towards Omni too. What I am talking about, Omni, what I am discussing is the fact that the data that we've gotten since the 50s, the compiled data that we currently use for CO2 readings, greenhouse gas emissions, is so small that giving a percentage of what we are responsible for, I think, is the propaganda. To say CO2 levels haven't gone up naturally, which is kind of weird. I don't know where you come from when you say this. Is far-fetched. There is, I mean, we do, core samples in Antarctica and stuff show us that are the CO2 levels that naturally happened, right? And we do see rises and falls in it. You do know that part, right?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh hell yes, and
Okay.
that's why I don't buy this line of reasoning of yours.
Well, that's the thing, because that line of reasoning is why I think the way I do.
Yeah,
or
but
that
right.
those circumstances is why I think the way I do. So this is how it works. This is the discussion we kind of got into yesterday, where it was someone was saying that we've been recording temperature data since like the 1600s. Temperature data does not reciprocate what CO2 does. It is actually scientifically proven that the correlation between temperature and CO2 isn't even known completely. It's a very wishy-washy science to understand the correlation between the two. Go ahead.
I got to stop you there to ask a question. So so now are we contending that the cause for rising temperatures is not greenhouse gases?
Factor.
Or,
It is a fact. It is a partial factor.
okay, so I don't like that at all. A partial factor could mean anywhere between 0.1 and 99.9%, or even
okay.
stronger than that. So,
Okay. If I had to give you my number, I would say we were responsible for 20%.
okay, what's responsible for the 80%?
Earth's natural cycle.
So why? So is Earth releasing more CO2 all of a sudden?
Yes.
Over the past
No,
50
it's not.
years?
It's not all of a sudden. Earth has always released these gases, CO2, because you do know there are natural CO2 pockets, right?
Yes.
Okay,
and that's
perfect.
why I don't buy. That's why I don't buy, because I know something about this. I don't buy your position on it.
Okay, I don't know anything about this. Can you describe? I'm sorry, guys. Can you describe to me these natural pockets? Like, where are they predominantly? I'm curious. I don't know anything.
Yeah, you will find for the specific CO2, there are deposits that are in the bedrock, basically the the sediment layer that has sealed all gases. Oil, this is where they find oil. This is where they find methane, or not methane, I'm sorry, helium, the whole nine. This is the purpose of fracking, to get to these locations. These spots in the ground. They're usually about a mile
Okay, hold on, I'm
3
sorry.
miles deep.
Okay, so, but I didn't hear you talk about CO2. You said methane or helium,
I mean helium,
and
yeah.
oil deposits. Right. So,
okay. CO2 is a natural exhaust decay byproduct. There you go. Byproduct of natural gases.
Yes.
Okay, so hold on. CO2 is a natural byproduct of the decay of all natural gases, or combined together natural gases described as carbon, oxygen,
Travis, it
Yeah.
is literally the byproduct. When leaves sit for long periods of time, after a while they start to decay. The decay that is emitted off of it is CO2.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's not a pocket. That's not a pocket. That's just like out in your yard.
Nope. Because this happens very deep in the earth. Earth recycles itself.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. I'm following. I'm just asking questions to learn.
Absolutely. All the questions are perfect.
So yeah. So I don't buy this. We know that there has been this massive increase in CO2, and we can go around and point to processes that create huge amounts of CO2 that are all man-made. Can we point to some natural process that is resulting in a huge amount of CO2 emissions since 1950?
Yes. One perfect example is in Siberia. As the permafreeze melts off, CO2 pockets are being released. You can go to, where is it? Somewhere in Canada. I forget the name of it exactly. But as the old ice melts off, it is doing the same thing. It is releasing natural gas pockets that were being trapped by the pressure.
Okay, but why is it melting in the first place?
Because the temperature is rising.
Why is the temperature rising?
We've already covered this. Part nature, small part us.
Okay, so if it weren't for us, would the ice sheets be retreating in?
Yes.
Why? How do you know?
Because with those ice cores that you emit they do, we see that this has been a process that has happened numerous times. Do you believe in the Ice Age?
Yes.
Then you believe in what I'm saying right now.
No, I do not. Do you think the Ice Age happened over 50 years?
What? No, okay. This process.
So we have seen. Look at the graph I put in the link to Wikipedia. Okay, that's a freaking ski.
Okay. Go do it right now. Hang on. I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah. Go ahead. Take a look.
Okay, perfect. Got it up. Okay, right. So you're talking about this graph on the right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what natural process is emitting CO2 in those amounts?
Okay, show me in prior history where we had an accurate reading between 80 years. Show me an 80-year period of CO2 readings prior to 1950.
Okay, so I can tell you that according to what we know, today it's the highest concentration of CO2 in 14 million years. But what I have to say is the idea that this graph has nothing to do with industrialization.
I did not say that.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to hear significant. And I'm going to treat 20% as zero. All right. You don't have to pepper your argument with all kinds of disclaimers about, percentages and significance and stuff.
You asked. Well, because I said a small fraction,
I did.
And you wanted to pin me down on a number.
Right. And you gave me 20%, and I think 20% is bunk. 20% might as well be zero if you're going to claim that 80% is coming from the process of the ice sheets melting, which have nothing to do with human creation of CO2.
That is.
I kind of agree.
That is one factor in it. Again, I've said this many times. These are factors in it. It's not.
You
It's
don't
never
have
going to
to-
be. It's never going to be just one thing. But more importantly, before you bypass what I just asked for, this is very important. This is part of my argument and why I have an issue with the numbers. You just showed me CO2 readings between 1960 and 2020, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you would have to use this as a comparison to tell me that at no other time has we seen an increase this much. So what I'm asking you for is an 80-year CO2 database or data recorded history for 80 years prior to this. So I can see what you're comparing it to.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would venture to guess, and again, this is outside. This is all just spitballing, right? If Omnivore posts something from 60 till now, and you're saying, okay, but what about from 60 back?
Yes.
In my opinion, okay, great. In my opinion, because the Industrial Revolution is a recent phenomenon, as well as the discovery, quote unquote, of fossil fuels for the use of energy, that would be within that early time period because, you know, when did that start? In the late 1800s for oil and all that shit, right? So I think that the law of unintended consequences is like, they're like, oh, fuck. The 50s come around and they're like, you know, we're noticing these changes. They weren't taking the measurements before because the changes didn't become significant enough until after they started becoming industrialized with using fossil fuels instead of possibly natural gases and energy from other natural, less combustible, cleaner. You understand what I'm saying? So I appreciate you, the fact, Sean, that you're saying, show me, you know, 80 years before that. I think that wouldn't exist because they wouldn't have been studying it at that point.
Exactly. So when I'm happy you made that point because this is the crux of what I'm trying to say. I get, and Omni, you keep saying this, and I want to make this very clear. Before I do that, L Incel, I don't know who you are. If you want to pop your camera on real quick, I will then enter you in here. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait a second until I get a chance to be able to bring you in here without worry about who you are. The reason I'm so when you keep saying this, and this is the issue I have. You say we haven't seen an increase like this in 14 million years. So if I say, show me an 80-year span within that if I say, show me
not what I said, but go ahead.
What did you say?
I said the CO2 percentage is the highest concentration in 14 million years. Not that we have never seen an increase like that. I don't think we have, but I can't prove that.
Okay.
And that's not central to my argument.
Okay, so show me, so this concentration of CO2 rise that you're showing me that within this 80-year cycle, can you show me what 80-year comparison you put it towards?
I can show you that the concentration has not been higher than it is today in 14 million years.
But what about the events that have been recorded? Because in those situations, the levels have been higher. And this is history. This isn't me just talking out my ass.
So when in 14 million years in the past 14 million years, has the CO2 concentration been higher?
I know there was a spike in CO2 in 1991 when Mount Pinatubo blew. And we saw increases in global warming by 0.5 degrees for 8 months. That was a time when we saw a huge spike in CO2, and it was actually read higher, and it was able to be contributed to an actual event, and that is what we see when we do those core samples. So when you say something like this, yeah, you're not going to see a spike unless an event happened. I'm not saying we don't have anything to do with it, but to say that humans are 100% a part of or the reason for it is like saying before the industrial time that climates didn't change and there was no reason for climates to change. That is like your argument right now.
No, it is not.
Okay, so then let me ask you something. Did climate change before people?
No, absolutely, it never did.
I'll say no
What?
too.
Yeah, why
Wait,
did you even ask me that? Why did you
Okay.
ask me that, Sean?
Let me ask this
What was
question
the
again.
purpose- what
Hang
was
on.
the purpose
Yeah,
of
let
that
me
question?
let me ask the question again because I am hoping I said it wrong or you took it wrong.
No, no. Oh, I took it exactly right. You asked me a question that has an obvious yes or no answer. You want me to say yes so you can go on and make your point. So I said no.
No. I want you to listen because this is important to this whole conversation. Was climate changing before the industrial time?
I think you can answer that question for yourself, and I think we're going to
No.
agree.
I want you to answer it because you
Okay,
just answered.
If you ask me a question to which I think there is a obvious, apparent answer, okay, and you want me to answer it in order to continue making your point, I'm disinclined to do that. So in that case, I will say no.
I am not disinclined to acquiesce to your request.
We all know that the answer is yes. So continue.
Okay.
My goodness,
I
that's
know
petty.
I know that the climate has changed. That is why I don't agree with your assessment.
Okay.
I
wait.
understand your argument, but I think you're making huge mistakes there.
Okay. I don't think you're listening to what I'm saying because
I am.
okay. So let's lay this out real quick. We acknowledge that humans have something to do with it. We know this because we go get in your car in your garage, right? Blah blah blah. Then I asked, and then I said, you asked me how much do I think the Earth does it versus humans, and I said I gave 20% being human responsible and 80% to what the Earth just does. You told me I was wrong, and then stated that. You stated I was wrong, but how am I fucking wrong if before people the climate was changing?
Because the climate is okay. So first off, the climate has changed before, obviously, but the thing that hasn't happened before is we haven't seen this much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in 14 million years, according to the science that we got.
For certain events, we haven't seen high levels of CO2, but that wouldn't dictate the spikes like this chart we're looking at. At no point do those core samples ever able to show you a time period of only 80 years. There is no 80-year marking that can go, oh, it spiked here and then didn't do it here. They're only looking at the events and the CO2 levels for those events. They're not testing the whole sample like that. So they're not getting this. They don't know that this has happened or not through nature. They don't know that an event like a super volcano went off and did this. They know an event happened, but they don't know how long it lasted. They don't know the spike.
So by a super volcano, you mean like the Yellowstone caldera?
Yeah, that'd be one.
Okay. Has anything like that happened in the past 50 years?
Yes, there have been meteors that hit that have affected the atmosphere. There have been large-scale weather events that have changed things. A lot of things change things. It's not one
Tons
thing.
of fucking earthquakes.
So no, the answer is no.
Fucking earthquakes.
The answer is no. And if you think the answer might be yes, you should look up Yellowstone caldera.
No. Again, the Yellowstone caldera is not the only thing that affects Earth. There are other events. Volcano activity does this. Large wildfires do these. Large-scale floods do these things. Understand, at no point am I saying one thing does it.
Okay, I know you're not saying one thing does it. Okay, but effectively you're saying one thing does it. All right, and the reason why is because I know you think there's a plausible deniability there, but we have we can point to human causes for tons of CO2 emissions. All right,
you're right. Airplanes, cars, trains, industrial. Yeah, you're right.
And we cannot point to any natural event that it releases CO2 on that scale, and yet you have decided that it's 80-20. All right, so if I put it in the other, I can't even put it in the other way around, 2080. Okay, because I'm not aware of any massive CO2 producing event that has run continuously and at an increase for 50 years, for 80 years.
Okay. Now, show me recorded data for CO2 readings for the last 10,000 years.
Well, I can show you, the archaeological records.
Okay. Show me CO2 data for the last 10,000 years.
So what? Okay. So what if I did?
I would be amazed.
I know you would. You think it's a safe question to ask because you know that that information doesn't exist.
Okay, so if the information doesn't exist and they weren't recording CO2 levels, what are they comparing everything to?
So they're comparing it to the data we have, which is
Okay,
all of those
so how do you know? Okay, how do you know that this isn't a trend of a 10,000 year cycle?
Because the kinds of things that happen in 10,000 year cycles are usually not so abrupt in a 50-year period.
When were the fucking pyramids built?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
50 years ago.
Okay, I'll look it up because you want to play this game.
Yeah.
Okay, so the pyramids were built. Why can't it just give me a good number? What does that be? 6,000 years? 12? So 12. About 12. We'll give that a good round, weird number. 12,000 years. Climate changed in 10,000 years. So tell me again it doesn't.
Okay, I will tell you again. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is higher at any time than in the that we know of in the past
5,000, sorry, Blue.
14 million years.
Okay, so what drove the climate to change in 5,000 years? Thank you, Blue. Blue corrected me. 5,000 years. So what changed the climate in 5,000 years?
I don't know. What was the climate What was the climate like in Egypt 5,000 years ago?
There were palm trees. There were rivers. There was greenage instead of desert.
Well, wait a minute. You're saying it was all grasslands?
How could you even know that, Napoleon?
I didn't say guys. Oh, easy, Travis, because when they do archaeological digs, they find fucking tree mineral deposits. They find, they know for a fact you can find gullies where rivers actually ran. This is, again, this physical evidence that shows this.
So I have a question. So this is a regional area, right? The region of the Sahara.
No, I would say the Sahara Desert, not just one small area.
I said the
I
Sahara.
can look it up.
Yeah,
okay,
the Sahara
whatever.
Desert. That's what I'm talking about. So we're talking about something that's global today. So, no, I don't think that these are comparable. And
okay.
I also think that let me explain. I also think it's clear that we can show tons of CO2 producing activities today that humans are definitely responsible for, and there's nothing comparable to what you're talking about with natural events.
Okay, show me the records that show it's not even comparable for the last 10,000 years. I'm going to keep doing this until you acknowledge the fact that you can't. Just say, Shawn, I can't show you 10,000 years of data because there isn't any. So I'm going to ask you
Shawn,
again.
I can't show you 10,000 years of data because there isn't any.
Okay,
but
so now we see. We see this. Hang on, we see this increase in CO2, which no one is denying. No one here is denying that. Now, show me rapid climate change that is equivalent to the 5,000 years, 10,000 years we're talking about, where the climate changed in Egypt and industrial age wasn't even around.
That is
so let me ask again. Let me make my question very clear. What were the CO2 levels in Egypt over that 5,000 to 10,000 years?
All I can tell you is we know they're not as high as today.
Okay, so do we see the climate drive changing as fast as it did then?
No.
Okay, so that means that there are factors
No,
that
wait.
contribute to,
We see there are factors that contribute. Yeah,
like
that
what?
doesn't. All you're going to do
Yeah.
by saying factors that contribute is just drive me nuts.
No, it's because that's reality. That's reality.
Yeah,
One thing does not
but
do
it's
everything.
right. I agree, it's reality. So we don't have to say it. Either it's mostly human caused or it's not. If it's not, what is it?
Okay. Well, then the reason I keep asking you about the last 10,000 years and the obvious, obvious agreed upon climate change that's happened in that time period, the reason I keep bringing this up is because you have to have something to compare to say that. If
No,
we
I
know
don't.
that,
I
okay,
don't
you
agree
keep
with
saying,
that. I don't.
okay, okay, fine, you keep saying that, but that's why when every time I keep going was, what were the readings prior to that? And you go, it doesn't matter. It does matter because that's when you say that it's the highest it's ever been in 14 million years. And I ask you, well, show me this time period. And you go, I can't. Then how do you know it wasn't in that time period?
So I'm showing you what the data says. The data that we have says it's higher concentration now than in any time in 14 million years. All right.
Yes.
And
So
I'm also,
do you-
wait. Do you not believe in the amount of carbon emissions that we track from human activities? Do you think that
That's-
those numbers are wrong?
No, that's ridiculous.
So, what's ridiculous? The amount of carbon that human activities are
No,
creating?
no, denying that we can measure the amount that
Okay.
we emit.
Okay, so do you think that there is some source of CO2 that is coming? 80% of it is coming from non-human emission sources. In other words, if we emitted 100
Non-human
tons,
factors, yes.
yeah, I'm gonna explain it. If we say we emitted 100 tons of CO2 in between 1950 and 2020, can you point to some process that emitted the 80 tons of that? If we say the CO2 in the atmosphere increased by 100 tons over the last 80 years, can you point to a natural process that emitted 80 tons of that?
Yeah, every volcano that erupted, every earthquake that released gases, every...
Okay, show that. Show the math.
Okay. We need to show the math for that. First of all, we're sitting on a panel, so I'm not going to do a long... I wish Tutorial was here. He'd probably do it. But are you denying that earthquakes, volcanoes are natural processes in which these gases would be released?
Once again, do I ask you leading questions?
Yes.
Okay, well, you can call me out on it when I do, and you can respond however you want. I don't like it being done to me. It doesn't feel like good faith.
Okay. You asked me.
Just make your point.
You asked me.
Yes.
No. Hang on. You asked me to show you where I think 80% would have contributed to. And if I tell you, and I say that hundreds of years of volcanoes, eruptions that release these gases is what contributes to it, it's not me. I'm not leading you. That's literally my answer.
We're talking about the time period of that graph where we were measuring this. Okay, we know, or we can calculate how much human-produced CO2 was made each year. And I think if you do that, you will discover that as humans have increased the amount of CO2 we produce each decade, that it matches that graph very closely.
Okay.
As we produce more CO2, the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere goes up by about that amount. Yes, I think that is exactly what we will find. And we will find that these natural causes that you're talking about are a tiny percentage of it. Now, there are going to be things like the melting Siberian ice caps and stuff that are permafrost that are accelerating the process, but those were started because of human activity.
Those have been doing that for thousands of years.
They haven't been doing it over a 50-year period, or at least you can't show that they have. We can show that this has happened.
I can.
And we can show how much humans have contributed. You said
I can show.
believe.
No, I can absolutely show you this process currently. I can show you this process that was recorded and shown 1,000 years ago. I can show you that has happened 5,000 years ago. I can show you that's happened 10,000 years ago. I can show you that's happened 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years ago. The things I'm saying are, I can show you. The things you're saying is you keep going, don't worry about the small periods of stuff happening. That doesn't matter. We're just going to go off this recorded data that we have for only the past 70 years.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what we should do, because over the
Okay.
past 70 years,
So then,
we've
yeah,
been
and
doing
then-
things that emit trillions of tons of CO2.
Yeah, that same rhetoric is the reason I do this. That's the same rhetoric, that little background thing I have of those wonderful things that need to be done are based off people that are giving me the numbers that you are having, the ones that are ridiculous. Because when it all comes down to the crux of things is that they're just reusing it to make more oil. The reason I brought up fracking, Blue, is because those fracking sites all around the Midwest are now carbon capture sequestration sites, and those are now we're really going to start talking. Those are going to be the things that affect us, the people, because these are all in local areas. Those are the readings that I think get skewed. I think that's the reason for skewing it. If the numbers and the propaganda show that they are higher than ever, higher than anyone can handle, then it's more propaganda to capture and then resell it and reuse it, because that's not how it's really promoted. If it was, then we would be going, hey, we're capturing CO2 only to make more oil, but that's not how it works. They're talking about it as an environmental thing to stop climate change. And this is where the argument comes. We are not stopping climate change. You asked me this earlier. What?
To make your case, you have to show that the
I have.
amount of CO2 in the atmosphere cannot be explained by human emissions. That human emissions get us to level A, and the 80% above that, 4 times that is from some non-human cause. And
Okay.
no, I don't think you have shown that. That's when I said do the math, and you said you had.
Well, that's why I keep saying very clearly, show me the data for the previous 10,000 years. And you keep saying, we both know there's not 10,000 years of data for it. So what you're comparing it to say that there has never been is a propaganda assumption.
No, I'm not. Wait a minute. Those are two separate things.
they're
Using
not.
using only the period of time from 1960 to 2020, 1950 to 2020. Okay, we can clock. You agreed that we could measure how much CO2 humans have produced. That's what I heard you agree to. Now we can also measure how much
Omnivore,
CO2
are you going
is.
to ignore the things that we are putting in the private chat for you to look at?
Well, you could tag me or something. I mean, I see some links.
I do not know how to tag people in StreamYard.
Okay, well,
I don't know if that works.
Yeah, I'm ignoring them for now. I will look at them. I didn't know that those were for me. But so using only the period of time for 1960 to 2024, we can show how much CO2 humans produced. We can show how much the CO2 content of the atmosphere went up. Okay? If you can show that the CO2 content of the atmosphere went up way more than humans produced, then I think you have a point. If you can't show that, then I don't think you have a point. Just saying we don't know what happened before isn't
So show
relevant.
me. Yeah. Here's the best part. Yeah, here's the best part about the data we're talking about. Show me what the atmospheric CO2 content was in the last 14 million years. You want to know why you can't? You want to know why you can't? Because the core samples that they get are from events that are trapped in sediment. So when you talk about this amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, it's been the highest it's ever been. It's been the highest it's ever been since we started recording, not ever.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the same question again. Given a period of time between 1960 and 2020, can you show the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that was not due to human action, human activity?
I'm sure I could find it if I looked.
Okay, so let's that is the question. If you can show that there is a natural cause of this increase in greenhouse gas that is not driven by human activity, then you have a point. If you cannot show that, the stuff about the historical record is interesting. I mean, your question is like I could ask an unanswerable question, so therefore,
Okay, so
nobody can know anything. But
a volcano, um, equivalent to the size of the Mount Pinatubo one in 1991, releases 43,500 gigatons of CO2 through an eruption, which is 1% of Earth's carbon. The second part of that is there is estimated to be 2.35 billion gigatons of CO2 trapped within the Earth's core, or within the Earth's below the surface, subsurface.
okay,
So CO2 gassed out to atmosphere, oceans today from volcanoes and other magnetolithic activity regions is estimated to be about 280 to 360 million tons per year, including the released into the oceans from mid-ocean ranges. So that's what's released, and they can record through events.
prior to the Industrial Revolution, CO2 levels were consistently around.
Just
280.
ignore what I just read, man. That is crazy. How do you do that?
Well, because so what was the point of what you read?
To show that there are numbers that show how much these events do release, and there is a difference. Here's the big part: there is a clear difference between surface or atmospheric CO2 and the surface stuff that they get in core samples. Am I wrong?
When they're taking the core samples, the core samples at the time were surface, right?
And then they
That's
are trapped,
why.
right? It's not a
Well, you're
consistent. It's not a consistent metric.
Well, if I drill down, so assuming that the Earth deposits sedimentary ice and sedimentary rock, whatever, over a period of time, if I drill down through it, I should be seeing at each inch I go down should be a snapshot of what the surface was like at that time, right? I mean, that's how I think it works. So I don't know. I don't see why the core samples wouldn't be a legitimate way to look at that.
Because it literally just shows you specific events, not in betweens. So for instance, for instance, let me give you an example. We fast forward 1,000 years from now. When they do a core sample, they are not going to see that 80-year metric. They're going to see a metric over 100 years, 200 years, because that's the scope at which they're going to give it. They're not going to say, this is an 80-year period. This is a 50-year period, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you're saying that these events haven't happened, it's what is really being said is there's only been a certain amount of events that have been trapped in sediment to be able to be measured. That doesn't say that there hasn't been spikes over 50, 100, 200-year periods based on just Earth releasing these deposits or having these events that make these things happen. Those things just are real. I don't understand why you keep saying that nature doesn't do these things if we know that in short spans things happen.
Because nature doesn't do these things with that kind of slope, not that we've seen.
Okay,
That slope is a steady increase, a dramatically steady increase that is not due to these eruptions of volcanoes. Not that we've had massive eruptions of volcanoes going on for the past 50 years.
There's 1,500 volcanic eruptions on average every year.
Right. And are they all equally massive?
Within comparison. If you want to average it, yeah, sure.
Oh, so you think that, okay, so if you can show that increase of CO2 is all due to volcanic eruption.
I didn't say it was. That was not my claim. Stop doing
okay,
that. That's so fucking weird.
All right, so, okay. If we have to
it's just gonna
be agony, okay?
Okay, well, here's the thing. Stop arguing from the point you think I'm coming from and start arguing the point that I'm saying.
Okay, so the point that you're saying is that it's all kinds of things and we don't really know. Can't really know.
Yep.
Okay, we can know. We
Okay.
can know.
Can I jump in just real quick? Hold on,
Yeah,
please.
let me just finish my thing. It'll be real quick. We can know how much greenhouse gas we emitted over the past
Yes.
80 years,
True.
and we can know what the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has been over the past 80 years, and
Yes.
we can tell how much we contributed to it. And as far as I can tell, it's like almost all of it. But you may have different data. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Travis.
I was just going to say part of this whole show that's going on right now is is like 90% just fingernails on a chalkboard, because the miscommunication that is happening is a result of what Sean just said. And the way I usually say it in my channel, and I think you got it from me, Sean, I'm going to accuse you of stealing from me, but that's okay, is start listening to what I'm saying and stop responding to what I'm not saying.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
because that's what's happening in here, and I don't know how to make it right, but we really need to like stop assuming we know what people are saying, and I know that yeah, I mean, this has been really frustrating on the one hand because I can hear the miscommunication and I don't know how to help it.
I will steelman your position, Sean. I'll attempt to steelman your position. Because I cannot.
Okay, but before you do that, can you tell us exactly what you think his position is?
That's what he's going to do. That's a steel man.
That's a steel man position. So, as I understand your position, you are saying that because we don't have detailed historical data, we only get it from cores, which you don't think is legitimate enough. We cannot show that greenhouse gases have ever spiked like we did, like they have in recent times, and that even viewing this recent spike that we have, we agree that greenhouse gases are spiking, but we can't prove that it never happened before, and volcanoes are a far more likely cause of that spike over the past 80 years than human activity.
Okay. No, you started right, but then you tapered off when you got bored of listening to me. Okay. I will lay it out to you perfectly. We do not have a historic record with timelines to say the significance of what will change climates to the effect they will. The reason that CO2 is the big banner for climate change is because they're using it to make more stuff. To say that core samples compared to only 80 years of data is a legitimate way to say it is all us is far-fetched. Earth has always been changing, whether it's in long million year timescales or short event situational timescales. We have recorded data in this 80 years that show one volcanic eruption can change the global temperature. That is my evidence that Mother Earth, has the ability to spike climates when it needs to, or when it does it, and not spike climates. It is not only human based, because I have evidence that a natural event, one single event, has moved the global temperature down. So I can say nature does it on a fast scale. I can say that because you understand that global temperature is not the temperature, right? We both are in agreement in this.
Yeah.
Okay. We have seen temperatures rise and fall in this 80-year cycle that we're talking about. We have seen nature affect that. Now, what you're talking about, human-based global warming, that 0.5 they're talking about that we can't get to, that we're rising, understand that we have seen natural events spike global temperature up and down more than we have seen right now by us, that I know we have affected, we're part of. Omni, I know humans have to do with a lot of it. My argument has never been we have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But the realization is there is a difference. There is recorded history showing that nature can do these things very fast and have an effect on climate.
what can you tell us about the difference and how they would establish the difference between man-made CO2 excess and natural Earth terrestrial sourced CO2, which I wouldn't call an excess. So, does that make sense? I'm asking you to.
Yes. The only
Okay.
time they could do that is during an event. The eruption in 1991 I'm talking about, Mount Pinatubo. The only time they would be able to record a significant scale change is that, because they'd be able to be on site. Otherwise, it's going to be a range that they find. That's why when I talk about the ice cores, they're ranges. It's not an event they can actually witness it happening until recently when we can.
No, no. Okay, so maybe let me try to be more specific, and then if everybody knows what I'm asking and can say it more clearly. My question is, how do you tell the difference between manufactured CO2 or the result of industrial exhaust CO2 and Earth CO2?
You do see a spike. That graph he showed, you see that. You see.
Oh, I'm not looking at anything right now, so
okay.
just use your words.
Okay. You would do an average over the past 80 years, and you would see that your numbers keep rising. That is the spike.
Okay, so what I hear you saying, hold on. What I hear you saying is there's just this blanket categorization of CO2, just CO2. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if it's industrial. Okay. All right. So I don't like this, but I'll be quiet. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a perfect science. That's the biggest gripe I have. It's perceived as a
Yeah,
perfect
I
science,
know,
but
right?
it's not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the problem. And it's pushed as basically Omni's position is probably as mainstream as it gets. Mainstream blames us completely, and then what they do from that is go
Not completely.
well, okay, well, 99%.
Not completely. You're straw manning me. You're straw 99.9, but you're straw
99.
manning me.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
99.9%.
you're agonizingly straw. You gotta always
okay.
disclaimer it so you're not.
Okay, my bad. And the reason that is done is now so they can push solutions. Omni, do you know the solutions to these endeavors that we have?
I do not.
Okay. The biggest one right now is obviously we talked about the carbon capture, then carbon sequestration. Sequestration is not the same process as what petroleum companies use it for to extract more oil. It is literally just getting CO2 and then trapping it in underground. Again, nowhere near a perfect science. They have no idea how long they can hold that CO2 in these deposits. They have no idea. They have no idea the longevity of the sequestration aspect of it. They want to do this on land. They want to do this in the ocean. Matter of fact, they are doing it. I don't know why I said it that way. Obama started allowing that in the United States. The biggest one I know of is outside Denver. Omni, the reason I bring this up is, do you know what happens when millions of metric tons or gigatons of CO2 is released into the atmosphere in a city?
What?
Everyone dies. Everybody. We have recorded history of this happening. Oh yeah, you're gonna love this. Naturally, and Russia, back in the 60s, 50s, a natural CO2 deposit released out of a lake in the Siberian area, and wiped over a village, killing I think it was 8,000 people and all the livestock. CO2 is a very heavy gas. It does not rise up into the atmosphere. It kind of sits on the surface. And it basically extinguishes all usable air in its vicinity. So the way I look at it is if that millions and millions of gigatons of CO2 is released out of those sequestration sites that are unknown how to, the longevity of them, that will kill a city, right?
I have a question.
Yes.
And again, this is going to be elementary, so forgive me for being a first grader. What is, and this is related, so don't think that I'm misdirecting. What is the cause for the depletion of the ozone layer?
Greenhouse gases, 100%. I will say 99.9% humans. And evidence shows that because when we stopped using certain gases and chemicals, we watched the ozone layer fix itself in a very short time.
Okay, so then the greenhouse gases are not CO2.
No. Okay.
Okay.
CO2 is a greenhouse gas, but it does not act the same way as most other gases. Methane.
Well, that's why I was asking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it. So the lighter
Yeah.
gases are the ones that ascend. Okay.
Yes. The reason why CO2 is here's why CO2, and this is, I think, it's not even an argument. The reason CO2 is such a worry in the conversation is because it's a gas that doesn't release from Earth. It doesn't leave Earth. It's not a gas that can be. It could, I guess, what very small particulates do maybe, but for the part, CO2 is not a gas that is emitted into our atmosphere and stays there. It's heavy. It's very heavy. It's another thing. I mean, this is a very weird science that is being presented to people. CO2 is not a situation that fucks with our ozone. It's not an ozone situation. It's basically like a big blanket that sits around us. And the more that's there, the more dangerous it gets. But it's always there.
By the way, I put a graph in there that you can look at.
Going to it right now. Okay. What's this?
I haven't vetted the source, but at a quick look through it, looks at least reasonable.
Annual human CO2 emissions. So basically, a human's footprint.
Yep.
Yeah, that correlates with the industrial, but it also correlates when they actually started recording it. So everything before 1950 to me is crap.
Okay, but you'll notice that it does look kind of like that other graph, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But what would that graph look like if they actually recorded before that?
I imagine it would probably look something like what we see on that page.
I think it would be more gradual. I think it would be a more of a gradual rise. I think it would look more. It would look a lot different.
I mean, we don't know, but you don't agree. You don't disagree with everything from 1950 on. You think that's all,
Yep.
all correct?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that to me those two graphs seem to line up pretty well. That seems to me like it's not unreasonable to think that they are in some way related. Maybe climate change is causing more fossil
Can I make a
fuel
suggestion?
use.
Can I make a suggestion? And forgive me if this is too austere. I've been listening to this, and it's been fairly interesting. However, it's been a very, very unenjoyable vortex. So I'm wondering, Shawn, if there's any way that you can maybe grab a hold of the mic and take control and maybe take us in a.
I think I agree. I think we are going back and forth for no reason at this point. Where were we?
I can drop.
It's not a drop thing. No. You're not a problem. It's just that we are getting into the weeds. We both are. It's not a you thing. What was the point? Oh, that's so weird. Okay. Someone get me back on track. Where am I? What was I talking about?
You were talking about fracking previously, and the application, how fracking is taking the CO2 out of the ground and reusing it. So we're not actually taking away from the CO2 that we're producing. We're just continuing to use the same amount of CO2 to produce more CO2.
Yes. Thank you, Shawn. I appreciate that. I'm going to show you the current fracking map of the United States right now, and this is only North America. The reason fracking is dangerous, and Tex kind of brought this up a little while ago. I know she did last night. For those of you who grew up in California, you know this wonderful thing called earthquakes. Earthquakes are fractures in the earth, on the earth's surface, that move and shake. This is not common in the Midwest. This is there are fault lines, but they are so minuscule that they don't really trigger earthquakes. But they have them now. The reason for fracking, for people who don't understand, back in the day, the common practice was to drill straight down. You would locate a well, locate a material or whatever you're looking for, and you would basically dig straight down. And you would tap that well and suck whatever you could up and then be gone. Fracking is an advancement in drilling where basically they get down to the sediment rock where it is basically sealed, everything is sealed at. And instead of drilling and finding a pocket, they just basically fracture all the rock bed that they can in that area. They basically put big fracture lines. Let me show you. So where drilling is looking for a hole, fracking is there it is. Fracking does is it drills down to that hard layer, and it just it fractures everything around it. It makes a bunch of little fractures around the drill site, and all the gases then seep into that line, and then they suck it up and then reuse it. You know, renewable. This is ways they find oil pockets. Fucking oil pockets in places that it's hard to find, etc.
Just real quick.
Yes.
So, okay, so it sounds to me, and I don't know whether or not this is accurate, but I didn't hear you say this before. So the way you just phrased what you said makes me think that fracking is a slang for fracturing.
Yes.
Is that the case?
It is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, there you go. All right, cool. That's cool. I'm listening.
It's the process of fracturing the rock to release the gases. The problem starts after they have left. Those fracture lines in sediment starts moving, starts settling, and that's when you get these earthquakes. They are different earthquakes, and this is very important. There are different earthquakes in anything you have in California. I have only experienced one here in Texas since I've been here. They kind of feel, if you've been in California, they kind of feel like baby earthquakes, like the ones we laugh at and keep going about our day. But for people that live here, it's very weird because it's not normal. The big problem with this is Texas's infrastructure is not designed for earthquakes. Matter of fact, one of the weirdest things that when I got here is my paranoia level was skyrocketed because I worked in a ceramic shop, which wooden shelves that were about 30 feet tall, and one single earthquake would take that whole shop down. And it's weird that they are actually talking about building up infrastructure to be able to withstand earthquakes. Things like that are the issue that is at hand when we talk about fracking. The biggest issue I have with fracking.
Just real quick, Sean, I'm sorry. Just real quick, make sure you stand up and speak about having a way for them to save millions of dollars by not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're like, you raise your hand, you're like, I got an idea that'll save us millions.
Yeah. Well, here's the kicker to that. Fracking, carbon, all the carbon capture that they're talking about, it is promoted as a saving, as a solution to certain things. But like Sean was saying, the biggest issue that I have with this, the biggest gripe I have with this topic that we're talking about is that we're all going to get forced to start changing our way we live our lives to accommodate for quote unquote climate change, when in reality, they're not slowing down themselves. They're actually ramping up. The production for oil has actually skyrocketed in the past 20 years, when in the same time we're supposed to be going away from fossil fuels. Then we'll talk about the clear solutions, right, to this climate change issue. If they came out and said, hey, we're fracking. We're going to start using the carbon to get more oil, and they're being honest about it. It'd probably be a different scenario, but the situation is that they're just bullface lying. It's a propaganda scam. I don't know if anyone agrees on that, but the realization to me is as long as money is involved, it will always be about the profit and not about the solution.
Now, see, this is where I appreciate this conversation going right now because, someone like you, Shawn, that can speak to your research, I like the whole past hour that we did is irrelevant to the point that you're just bringing up right now, because I think that my question before you even said what you just said right now is like, okay, so how could we take this information that Shawn is, bringing, not just you, I'm sure other people have this information as well. Like, we should be able to, because if we live in a commercial industry, which we do, commerce, supply, demand, how is it that we can affect the industry so much by perhaps not participating in as much as we can so that they stop doing what they're doing to the environment? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I think that's what we should talk about shit like that.
Yeah, because and I used to play the real doom and gloom about this, only talk about the negative, but there are solutions to this. I think if we want to be realistic about what's going on, the media, the governments need to stop playing we're going to solve this game while they make money, and start playing we need to adapt game. It is a whole different scenario played out when it's reality instead of money. The discussion, the reason I'm so vested in this discussion is the money part of it. I see the only real solution being a money drain. It's going to cost, because we are Omni. This is an important part, because we do have so much to do with what's going on. I think the responsibility is to stop being such pussies. Stop thinking that we need to make our lives as easy as possible without realizing the detriment of that. And I think the way the mainstream presents things now is almost as if it's not our fault. We can fix it.
It's not our fault?
Yeah. If we didn't have what we have, our lives would be so much worse. But we love the convenience of life.
By the way, I just put in a chart of volcanic emissions versus fossil fuels.
Look at
Yes, and then I put a chart in for you to not to like argue with you about anything, but just to show you what like the baseline of other emission variables there are aside from human interference.
So observed, I agree with. All drivers, I agree with. Human drivers, I agree with. And the natural drivers is way down on the list.
It is to a certain extent, but again, I am. Hold on.
80%.
Hold on. Chill out. Woosah. It's okay. If you look, it's very recent, the disparity, the disparity between the two, because up until about 1980, all factors were pretty consistent across the board. But again, I am not of the same stance as Shawn to a certain extent, right? I do firmly believe that that humans have affected the climate quite severely. And again, I always give credence to science. They are much more intelligent than I am. They've put in the effort. They've put in the work. They've done the research. I'm not gonna argue statistical fact with you. That's just not my place. But I will give him some credence in the fact that yes, we do see historically that there are trends of climate change that have occurred, which is why we have had extinction events in the past.
Sure.
And that is where my hang up was in this whole conversation.
Yeah,
If
no,
I could just jump in real
I just want to say that chart is the question that I was asking. If we can see the comparison of human activity versus natural activity, then we can say what percent is human, what percent is natural. So
Yeah, so earlier when you heard me going clicky clacky on the keyboard, that's what I was doing, is I was trying with all desperation to find Jarvis so we could
okay.
have
Yep.
some baseline to bounce off of, right?
Mhm.
Instead of going in circles.
So that's what I that's what I would that's what I would think it would look like. And it does diverge, it looks like to me, around 1960.
Yeah, it starts, but it's still, I mean,
Well, there's spikes for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's another chart in that from that same group that shows like the wave trend. Yeah, here it is. Hang on. Let's see if I can get this and send this over to Sean.
I still want to go back to Sean's point that he was left with.
Yeah, we can go back.
Yeah, in terms of addressing, right. So in my mind, let's try to think of the smallest commodity or the smallest asset that we think we need for convenience and figure out how to eliminate that.
You broke up. I tried to catch it. You got to say it again. Did anyone catch what he was trying to say?
I did not.
Kind of. I think it was like, what could we could we eliminate, or something like that. Like, but I'm not sure if that was his question or.
Pretty sure it was. Number one, the first thing we eliminate is people aren't gonna like this. Foreign oil.
Yeah.
That's step one. Step two is realizing life doesn't need to be as convenient as it is.
Yeah, we said that last night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Accountability. Not sure if people know what carbon credits are, but it basically is what waves companies to produce what they produce legally through restrictions. If Company A annually is only allowed to produce 20 parts, blah, 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 of greenhouse gases, what is set up, the way it's set up now is if a country that doesn't even have energy has these credits, they can sell them to a country so that they can raise the amount of greenhouse gases they're allowed to produce. These practices give a very clouded version of what's really happening, and which is why the stance of what the mainstream presents is propaganda. It's just the way it is.
What's wrong with carbon credits as a concept?
Okay.
Because it's not really doing anything. It's just basically paying money for someone else to have some sort of green space or something like that. In the case of down here in Florida, they have the sugar company that produces greenhouse gases, and they will purchase credits from other farmers or landowners around them to continue making more greenhouse gases. And and really, they will produce as much as possible and continue to find people to buy from. They'll buy outside of the state. They'll buy across the U.S. anywhere they can get it.
Yes. It's on. That is at the small scale. It gets bigger when we talk like China, UK, United States, like certain countries. They do this. If there's a country, this is a fact. There are countries in Africa that have zero power, energy infrastructure. but have carbon credits. And one of the ways that, this is fine. One of the ways that they support their people is by selling these credits. The problem is if China buys those credits and they're only allowed that 20, and then you see a report that they're using less and they're on the right track. What it means is they've bought 25 and they're below that number. Well, so what it really does is it gives you this idea that they're doing good, but in reality they're actually still producing more.
So my understanding is that there's a limited amount of carbon credits. So let's say you say there could be 100 carbon credits, and that is the amount of carbon that you should be dumping into the atmosphere.
Allowed to.
That's sustainable. Yeah, for the globe. There's 100 carbon credits for the globe. Yes. And then China buys up 50 and dumps 50 in. And America would like to buy up 50 and dump 50 in, but we don't have it, so we buy 30. We have 30, and we dump 32 in, which means we have to pay extra because we dump too much.
Okay. So there's a big carbon pool. So that we'll use that number 100.
100. Yep.
20. It's like every country, depending on the amount of energy infrastructure they have. Obviously, China, United States, Russia are going to be UK are going to be the larger users of these carbon credits. But there are small countries that don't use carbon credits. So if those are all allocated out, and United States and China both have 30 of those credits, but if they go over, they have to pay significant fines. So what these countries do is they go to those small countries that don't use their credits, so China and America can both have 35 credits. So it's still part of the same pool, but it's just buying and trading between them. But what what happens is if the United States reports that we have 30 credits, we are not going to produce more than we're allowed. And then the end of the year comes around, the United States goes, we have used less of those credits than we attended, and then everyone throws them a party. The governments give them subsidies, give them fucking extra money and bonuses and shit like that for doing it. And then what really has happened is they've actually produced more, but because they've bought those credits, it looks like they've gone less.
Well, but if the total pool is still a good number, and if the total amount of carbon produced doesn't go above the pool, then I think that's fine, regardless of how you swap them around.
Well, the big problem is that these large countries, United States, Russia, China, the ones that are producing the most greenhouse gases, the problem is that when you do that in abundance, if the United States is producing more, it affects Canada, and Canada's part of it, but it affects everything around it, and that goes for so on forth with the other countries. So they may be using the allowed amount for the globe, but in concentration, it's more, so it actually affects that area more.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not that pollution is a good thing, but that's not. So the reason why I understand people like the idea of carbon credits is that instead of saying you can't produce more than this, and if you do, we're going to sanction you, levy fines, or whatever it is you do, is because it allows you to say, well, we're going to produce more than this, and we're going to buy it up. We're going to pay extra money to do that, which disincentivizes heavy carbon footprint operations, right? The COO of the company or the CFO of the company says, well, you could open that new plant, but then we're going to have to pay extra in carbon credits or whatever.
Well, see,
as long as
I understand your thought on that.
It works. Yeah.
I understand your thought on that, but the point I brought up about the U.S. sugar buying out carbon credits around them, there are maybe 50 to 60 major contributors to CO2. And these are like the major contributors. So they buy up as many carbon credits as they possibly can, because they especially here in America, you can buy as many as you want, as long as you have the money. What that does is that keeps the pool specifically for those 50 to 60 people. or 50 to 60 entities, I should say. So it's not really taking away, because what they can do is they can go over their carbon credits, and the only thing they have to do is pay a fine. That's it.
Okay, so what would a better solution look like?
Reduce the amount of CO2 that they're making.
Yeah.
So,
you put restrictions on the amount of CO2 that they release, and if they go over it, you fucking sanction them hard as fuck, and it puts accountability.
So, yeah, so I don't have a problem with that. You know, I mean, I might, depending on what the sanctions.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yep.
All of this sounds like a clean way to launder carbon credits, so to speak. Okay, so again,
absolutely
right, exactly. Which should show us that this has no, they have no intention of.
You cut out, Travis.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I think that. I think we have to have a law that we could actually get passed, and I think carbon credits is something that can actually get passed, as opposed to the authoritarian crackdown.
Well, here's the problem, and this is kind of elaborating on what Travis was saying. Because of the way it's set up, there is no incentive to actually produce less greenhouse gases. There's zero. The reason there's zero incentive is because the processes they're using to, for instance, CO2, because this is the main one, is to produce more oil. 90% of the captured CO2 is used in petroleum fields to produce more oil. The solution, or the reason it's not going to change, is because 90% of politicians that are passing these bills and policies and regulations have a lot of money invested in it. They make millions. There's a website called Oil Secrets, and it shows you what every single politician, from the president to the state level congressman, the companies they're invested in, the properties that they have, it shows everything. And what you'll see as a fucking very common trend is that they all have something to do with fossil fuel companies. And these are the same people that are telling you that we need to get away from fossil fuels, we need to be relying on renewables. But like I said, at the same time, there is no actual effectiveness of dropping the numbers. The reason we have a spike, and this is the reality of it, the reason we have a spike is because they're not actually giving a fuck. They're not actually doing something about the problem. They're presenting it as a solution and presenting it as a problem. It's just money.
So I don't know. Are you familiar with the ozone layer hole?
Yes, the Toronto Protocol.
Yep. So, I mean, we did something about that, right? I mean,
I said earlier, I think the ozone layer, the hole that we witnessed was 100% us.
Okay, I agree.
Because I think, what was it, in a 40-year span, we went from observing this problem to starting the Toronto Protocol. For people who don't know what that is, it's basically the banning of like certain type of freons, type of gases used in appliances, et cetera, et cetera. The second they did that, and that, my friend, is a solution that needs to happen now. When they did that, we literally watched that ozone layer fix its fucking self. Mm-hmm. Those are solutions. The reason it worked so well is because it became such a big deal, and it was forced upon businesses and companies that use these things. That is a real solution that did not make anybody money. That's the key point to that. There was nothing in that bill that anyone was going to get rich off of, but it solved the fucking problem, and it solved it quick. They could do that now.
Well, I'm going to, disagree a little bit. It made somebody money, like it always makes somebody money.
Okay,
Who
would
when they outlawed the old Freon, right? Who made money off of that?
the companies that made this the new stuff, for sure.
There you go.
I can agree with that.
Someone's
But
always making money.
yeah, I agree, and I thank you for for correcting me. Yeah, everyone makes money, but without the words right now, I feel like it's still different. Making money on a solution, like, is like, for instance, okay, I know how to do it now. The companies that made the new chemicals, was that chemical as dangerous or more dangerous?
depending on uh, depending on how you look at it. I mean, what's the price of making that Freon? Is that less dangerous? I don't think it is. I think it's just as dangerous and adds just as many chemicals into the air.
I wonder. But see, is Freon a topic of discussion now?
I mean, not really. That was banned in what, the 90s,
70,
wasn't it?
70s? That was 70s.
70s.
No, 84. Shit. I don't know. Yeah. That time period, though. It wasn't in the 90s, though. I wonder, but that would be a perfect situation of it, though. I mean, people are obviously gonna make money. I can't say that any solution isn't gonna make somebody rich. The problem is, it's the mask. Like I said, if we saw an actual drop in fossil fuel production, I probably wouldn't be having this issue. But we actually see it ramping up. We're not. We didn't go to war in Iraq for nothing. And for all those reasons, I don't think we're just going to ever give up fossil fuels. I think if the media wanted to play the real, let's be real game, and the government wanted to present this as the reality of it, it's really a situation of we need to start getting ready to adapt. We need to stop being so pussified. We don't need everything we want that fucks up our world, right? Basically, the only real solution to this issue with climate change is stop living so easily. And then even then, it's not a solution for us. And I think that's the problem. I think this is where the end of the story and the conclusion to my irritation is. Any real solution to the problems we're talking about is a situation that's going to take time. When I say time, I'm talking at least 100 years. If we were going to say global warming isn't a problem anymore, for anything we do, it's going to take 100 fucking years to actually have a positive result. By anything we can start doing now, the issue is they talk like, let's solve it now. And to me, you guys aren't going to like this. I know a lot of you won't. That is the control part. I told Tex about this last night. This is acknowledged by governments. Okay, there are levels of control and levels of ability to control that they acknowledge. Controlling the people is step one, right? That is just governments. And that control doesn't need to be a negative thing. It doesn't need to be they're trying to population control. It's just societies, civil manner, right? They're able to rule over. The next step is being able to control your environment. We are at that step. We have cloud seeding, weather modification. We alter rivers. We do a lot of things to control our environment. The next step is the fun one, and that is control everything within space, not space out, space from space down to Earth. That is the geoengineering aspect of this. This is when the world starts changing, not just a local area. To me, it is a very scary thing because they don't have our best interests at heart. proven by their history, essentially. It's kind of a situation to me where our best interests now aren't being looked at. It's fill our pockets now, worry about it later. And personally, I don't like that because I have a son and he's going to be the one that has to deal with this crap. I think pushing far-fetched ideas and propaganda is why we're in this situation where we are actually arguing about shit we agree on, but yet not understanding, because I think there's a whole side of the world, the populations of the world, that don't understand the details, the inside, the reality of these conversations. They're just getting the blanket. We fucked up. We are humans. We did it all. It's not true. It's just not. And there's evidence behind it. Whether or not you want to look it up or not, it's up to you. But the reality is we are not the only factor to this earth doing what it does. It's been doing it for millions of years. So to think we are is so far-fetched to me.
Well, I think you brought up something earlier about the reliance on oil from other countries. Because that is a major factor. First off, it takes oil to bring the oil up. Then you have to transport that oil. So you're using oil for that. And then, once you get it to the other country, then you use oil to transport it around to wherever to get it refined just for a gallon of gas. It's a lose-lose situation.
Yes. And what you're talking about is specifically basically a carbon footprint. This is the crux of it. With the way they're talking, the goal would be to have a lower carbon footprint for everything. So basically, we're zero net. We're not producing more than we can get rid of. Just the transportation aspect of this conversation, the process in which we get it, the process in which we store it, produce these CO2s, these emissions that we're talking about. There is no real fix, and to think there is so ridiculous to me. We need to realize we need to be in an adapting phase of this, not a fix it, or give people this far-fetched idea that if you stop driving your car and just start walking, everything will be okay. It's ridiculous. It's not. It's not how it fucking works. I don't know if you guys agree with that part, but it's just my reality.
But yeah, no, you can't just say that's gonna fix everything. We had brought up in previous conversations about how the hybrid engine should have just then become the standard, because that was it reduced the amount of oil to produce both aspects of the engine itself, and it kind of got walked away from quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to kind of start rolling. We're going to start kind of ending this out. I have a few clips I wanted to play, and I wanted to play them for this point. I've been doing these conversations about this stuff for a very long time, and I 100% understand that I don't always get it across correctly. It's a lot to unpack, and even harder to unpack how to say a lot of the things, because if you notice how I go all over the place, this topic does do that. You can't stay baselined in one part of the conversation without talking about other parts of it, so it makes it very difficult. But more importantly, I want everyone to understand that this isn't just my opinion. This is stuff that I get from evidence that I get, or that I see on a regular basis when I'm looking for these things. And the best part about it is the sources that I get it from primarily are Congress. It's these hearings they have that discuss these topics. Me thinking geoengineering is happening isn't a conspiracy theory. It's because that's what I've been told. Not by some conspiracy theorists, by government officials that think that this is an actual issue, and they don't like the propaganda. So I kind of wanted to show you guys a couple of the hearings that I go through and start my research on what's happening when it comes to like geoengineering, weather modification, climate change, the whole nine. Because these are the things that give me the perception of how it really is versus what the media is presenting to everyone. This first one is a hearing. It's only 2 minutes long. It's a hearing that is discussing how science records CO2 data, perceives it, and delegates it to the world. And I am going to make sure I hit that little tab at the bottom. Oh, there it is. That's what I want. Entire screen. Click my little audio tab. And we'll play this real quick.
How much CO2 do human beings put into the air, anthropogenic CO2, on a daily basis? Anyone have an estimate of that? Or annual, if whatever numbers? Dr. Caldera?
The average American puts out something like their own average body weight each day in the form of carbon dioxide, so something like 150 pounds of CO2 per person per day in the United States.
Times 300 million people.
Right, times 365 days a year.
Uh-huh. Mr. Roebuck, did you want to add to that? The reason I ask the question is we are doing geoengineering on a massive scale. I mean, if 100 years ago somebody had said, hey, here's a bright idea, we should promote a plan to put that much carbon into the air, and Dr. Caldera, I commend you for mentioning ocean acidification, 25% of which will go into the oceans, make the oceans 30% more acidic within 50 years, and then continuing on after that to make it so acidic that it reaches levels not seen since the age of the dinosaurs and dissolve coral reefs. Shouldn't Congress support that? People would say, you're crazy. That geoengineering on that scale, which is what we are doing, and now we're looking at ways to reverse that. Second observation would be, you know, years ago there was a psychologist named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross who looked at what happens when people are dying, and not everybody goes through her stages of dying, which got a lot of play at the time, but nevertheless her stages of dying went, you know, denial and then bargaining. And the bargaining tends to be, isn't there going to be someone to come rescue me from this cancer or this other illness that I've got? It strikes me that we're sort of in those stages now. And the reason I raise that in the context of geoengineering, we've had a whole series of hearings in my committee and this committee, or my subcommittee and this full committee, on carbon sequestration, on nuclear fusion, on geoengineering, and it seems to be everybody's trying to say, isn't there some way out there that we don't have to make changes in our behavior, that we can continue to spew just as much CO2 or use just as much energy, and something somewhere is going to save us from just having to make these horrific changes like turning down our thermostat, putting air in our tires, etc. And so I applaud you all for suggesting that we're not going to have this deus ex machina rescue us by, you know, chemtrails or whatever people want to distribute into the air.
Yeah. So if that's not a clear admission to the issues that I've been talking about, I don't know what to tell you. The CO2 conversation at the government level is perceived as a, I don't know. We're looking into it. Let me find the other clip. This is a very common practice in these situations. I gotta find the file. Do you guys have any comments to what we just watched? Omni, did you have any comments? Because
so I wasn't able to 100%. So I got a couple of things out of that. So he says, so there's not like a easy fix. Like, you know, he's saying people are saying, won't something come and save us? Mm-hmm. And what I got from that is something other than, you know, strenuously reducing our carbon emissions. But I'm not sure if I understood him correctly on that count.
Okay, so there's two camps in this climate change thing. One of the camps is fix it now, and the other camp is, how do we fix it overall?
We're too far gone.
Yes. So what's happened is there's one side of the camp that is saying, let's do geoengineering and do shock treatment to the climate, and these certain methods would cool the global temperature. One of them, this is the one that I am scared of the most, solar radiation management. Luckily, thanks to my boy Totoro, he has showed me that luckily the clip I'm going to show you, this group, Harvard University, is no longer trying to do this, but I have found out there are a lot of others that are interested in following up on this research. But this is one solution I'm going to show you. This is David Keith kind of just going over what it is and the implications of it. Like I said, this guy, David Keith, his group is no longer pursuing this. But at the same time, this guy is in business with Bill Gates. They own the largest carbon capture industrial facility in the world. They are the leading sellers of carbon capture machinery for buildings and shit like that. But this is him talking to it's a climate hearing. So that it's all like climate advisors and stuff that will then take it to their people and talk about what's going on. Let me see, where is it?
Decision, or if there was a collective decision. So if I made a decision, or if there was a collective decision to do a geoengineering program, and you put, say, the kind of program I think makes more sense, we put about 1 million tons a year in, but let's say, you might end up killing many tens of thousands of people a year as a direct result of that decision.
That was the wrong one. I apologize. You guys can see my files. Okay, let me see if this is it. Oh, here it is. Perfect. So this is the same clip, but it's not just the doom and gloom part. It explains more.
So if I made a decision, or if there was a collective decision to do a geoengineering program, and you put, say, the kind of program I think makes more sense, we put about 1 million tons a year in, but let's say, you might end up killing many tens of thousands of people a year as a direct result of that decision. I made a decision, or if there was a collective decision to do a geoengineering program, and you put, say, the kind of program I think makes more sense, we put about 1 million tons a year in, but let's say, you might end up killing many tens of thousands of people a year as a direct result of that decision.
In 2018, scientists will take bold steps to explore a technology that could reverse the effects of climate change.
It's an engineering project that would literally touch every living thing on the planet.
They're looking at ways to reflect sunlight back into space and cool down the Earth. Geoengineering is the pioneering science that could well be on everyone's lips in 2018.
The idea of geoengineering is the idea that humans purposefully influence the climate of the planet. Solar geoengineering specifically is the idea of introducing a substance into the stratosphere that will cool down the planet by reflecting back sunlight.
If we turn down the sun a little bit, that brings the Earth's energy more into balance, and that could reduce some of the risks like extreme storms or extreme temperatures.
Exactly. Okay, so what do we do?
So the other thing is horrifying. It is that you could actually spray sulfuric acid in the stratosphere 20 kilometers over our head and use that to stop the planet warming up in a ugly tech fix.
You could spray something into the atmosphere to change.
Spray pollution into the atmosphere to stop it warming.
I made a decision, or if there was a collective decision to do a geoengineering program, and you put, say, the kind of program I think makes more sense, we put about 1 million tons a year in, but let's say, you might end up killing many tens of thousands.
Okay, I want to respond. So, Blue said, I'm assuming you're talking about the court hearing, and I'm going to pull that back up because...
roughly how much CO2...
So, I'm assuming you're talking about this one. Blue says, all he said was that we are geoengineering by virtues of our very lifestyle. No, he said that what he was explaining is that where people are saying rather than change our lifestyle to fix these problems, we want to use geoengineering to do it now. That's what he was saying. I have no problem playing it again. It's the crux of my argument. They don't want to do. It's not a situation of where they want to tell people they have to have shittier lives basically and have to deal with more issues because they have to kick back on whatever to save the planet. They're not doing that. They want to do these weird geoengineering projects to do it now. I definitely want to play it again. So maybe I heard it wrong. I mean, I've heard this 100 times, so I don't think so.
Do human beings put into the air anthropogenic CO2 on a daily basis? Anyone have an estimate of that? Or annual, if whatever numbers? Dr. Caldera?
The average American puts out something like the average...
There's 300 million people.
Right, times 365 days a year.
Uh-huh. Mr. Oak, did you want to add to that? The reason I asked the question is we are doing geoengineering on a massive scale. I mean, if 100 years ago somebody had said, hey, here's a bright idea, we should promote a plan to put that much carbon into the air, and Dr. Caldera, I commend you for mentioning ocean acidification, 25% of which will go into the oceans, make the oceans 30% more acidic within 50 years, and then continuing on after that to make it so acidic that it reaches levels not seen since the age of the dinosaurs and dissolve coral reefs. Shouldn't Congress support that? People would say, you're crazy. That geoengineering on that scale, which is what we are doing, and now we're looking at ways to reverse that.
Right there. Looking at ways to reverse that. I don't disclaim what we are doing to affect things, but the geoengineering projects that they're trying to do to reverse these processes, what he is specifically talking about would be like cloud brightening, iron or ocean fertilization. These are things that raise the acidity levels in the water. We have done these things, and now we're trying to figure out ways to reverse it. Ocean fertilization has been going on for many, many decades. I don't know if the disconnect. Am I saying, guys on the panel? Am I saying it wrong? Is Blue correct? Is he just saying that just our lifestyles is what he's talking about as in geoengineering?
I feel like in the first half, right before you paused, yes, he's talking about what you're saying. But when he says, and we have been doing geoengineering, I think that's when he segues more into the idea around lifestyle, right? I think he's transitioning. He's thinking out loud, more or less, in that latter half, is what I'm getting from it.
But
because Blue has a point. Blue definitely has a point. A lot of the stuff we do has adverse effects on our climate, and it can technically be considered a form of geoengineering, especially in context of like soil exhaustion or soil erosion, things like that. We're starting to do a lot more carbon offset to try to counteract that, because agriculture has caused so much issue with being able to till our land properly, with polluting our land in a certain sense, because we are pulling all nutrients from it. And when you have accelerated soil erosion, you do get CO2 emission, right? To a certain extent. It's minuscule, but it's there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance in it.
Yeah, it's not just the CO2 emissions, like the runoff from massive amounts of agriculture raise the acidity levels in the waterways as well. Which kills off the local plants and kills the biosphere around it.
Right. Everything is very, very intermingled. And we as human beings have just had an unfortunate chain reaction due to us trying to adapt our surroundings around us instead of trying to adapt around our surroundings. But yeah, I agree with you in a lot of aspects. I feel like because we have given so much leeway to consumerism, due to
myself now.
the driving force of what capitalism is, we have caused these adverse effects on ourselves. I think we had it right when we were all living off of our land, cooking what we needed, utilizing what we needed, and not living in excess. But that's just not something that is going to be practical in a modern day and age.
Agreed. I have one more. This one is, I don't even remember this one. I just know it is. It's a geoengineering innovation and research and technology hearing through Congress. They have them all the time. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but on YouTube, Homeland Security and their fucking, what do you call it? Climate research agencies and shit for the Congress. They live stream all their hearings. You guys should check those out. They're pretty good. Did you guys see the fucking Secret Service hearing? Holy shit. That was amazing. They grilled that lady so bad. It was fucking funny as shit. Alright, let me play this. I don't know if I'm going to get through the whole thing, but we'll play some of it.
For 5 minutes. For questions, Dr. Ash, I understand that most of the federal research on the topic of geoengineering has been conducted at our federal labs. Can you elaborate on how much funding is currently slated for this type of research?
To my knowledge, the current funding is restricted essentially to a few university professors through the National Science Foundation. The rest of it is being occasionally supported from various agencies to stay engaged in activities like the research reports, which you've heard about, but most of the other work that's being done is being done through supportive philanthropic organizations or for free on weekends and evenings by scientists who are interested in these things. It probably is bounded by less than $1 million a year. It could be a few $100,000 a year of supported research directly for geoengineering. That's to my knowledge. I don't really know.
Any other panelists want to weigh in on that question? Dr. McMartin.
The National Center for Atmospheric Research has been providing computer time, which is supported by the NSF, but that's basically, Phil's answer is correct.
And so I would guess that, and I don't want to presume anything, but it sounds like you would agree that the topic has not been adequately pursued in the research phase.
Right. My reaction is that it's very easy to identify the fact that a very small amount of effort has been put into this area, and that progress could be made much more rapidly with a relatively small amount of funding.
It leads me to ask, why has geoengineering not received the same kind of funding as maybe some other types of research over the last 8 to 10 years? Dr. Rash?
Well, I think there's a recognition by all that it's quite a controversial subject of real concern to citizens of the U.S. and to other scientists as well, and there's some reluctance to take the first step, is my sense. That's my best answer.
Well, Dr. Mikett, or actually anyone on the panel, outside of the federal government and you've mentioned some of the philanthropic supporters of geoengineering research, what's the post-secondary education or university level of research in this area? Ms. Wanson?
I'm already on, sorry.
Yeah.
So the overall philanthropic funding in this area is, I would characterize it as maybe in the range of $1 to $2 million a year, mostly allocated towards one program. the stratospheric aerosol program at Harvard.
Later, Sean.
For the most part, my experience in the philanthropic community is that this subject matter is not yet acceptable for funding. So traditional sources of environmental and climate research funding in the philanthropic community are not yet funding in this area.
And Dr. Mikett, how about universities?
Well, we know there's a few research programs around the country, Harvard, University of Washington, other individual scholars. Whether or not this particular item falls under a research priority for a particular university, I don't think is a question that's easy for me to answer. There are individual academics who put their energy into it, as Phil says, but it's not a very large field. As you go to these scientific meetings where geoengineering is discussed, you see that there's a relatively small number of people working on these issues.
Are other countries working on geoengineering research? Dr. McMartin?
So I think the largest program in the world is probably the one at Beijing Normal University in China, but that's relatively new and unclear exactly where they're going with that. But in Europe, there's some small efforts as well, but not substantially larger than what's in the U.S.
So if thinking of it in terms of global competition, it doesn't sound like we're falling behind global competitors. It's just that we're not advancing as rapidly as perhaps many or some would like. Is that fair to say?
Not yet, but that may change depending on China's future investments.
Depending on what Beijing Normal does, yes. Dr. Ash?
Well, it was just, I might beg to differ a little bit with Doug, that my sense is that over the last 5 years or so, a variety of European countries have identified explicitly some funding for geoengineering research that amounts to a few $1 million a year, perhaps, for at that level, which is substantially larger than the amounts that I could identify in the United States.
Well, again, thank you, all of you, for being here. And my time has expired, and I recognizing myself now for 5.
Yeah. So everyone knows the funding for geoengineering research is in the billions now. I think it's like 6-7 years ago. Yeah, it's very high now. I don't want to bore you guys with any more of the videos. So many I have. So fucking fun. Going to go ahead and get out of here. I think we've exhausted this. There's still some, like I said, it's impossible to talk about it all in one conversation. I would like to talk about geoengineering pretty soon. That is the solutions to our issues if we were to be able to do something about it. I'm trying to see what Blue's saying. Are you talking about the solar radiation management? I'm trying to figure out what Blue was talking about. If you are talking, if you're talking about the solar radiation management, the primary purpose for that is to block UV rays, to cool the environment. But the risk with that would be basically putting a blanket over and trapping any of the greenhouse gases that would actually try to get out. Which reminds me, you guys may not be out of the woods yet. Because there was a guy that was sitting there. His name is Alan Robach. Okay. Understand that geoengineering is not a known science. It's a theoretical science, in a sense. When they put out these models for predicting what will happen if we do certain geoengineering, whether it's solar radiation management, cloud brightening, ocean fertilization, they aren't good results. And those are the words of these climate scientists that are discussing this. The guy I'm about to play, Alan Robach, he's a PhD at Rutgers. He's been advocating for not doing solar radiation management for the risks of it. And I don't know. Have you guys seen any commercial? I've seen a few commercials about this on TV because they started talking about geoengineering. But they don't. I know they don't talk about the risk parts. But I wanted to play this because we started talking about geoengineering, and I kind of want you guys to see why I don't like it. Don't like the message they want. And then I promise you this will be the last one, and I will probably skip through for few parts of this to get through it. But I definitely want to play this one.
Great talk this morning. Can you give me the 30-second summary on geoengineering? I know that's hard.
People have proposed blocking out sunlight to...
You know what I should probably do first? I should probably share it.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Summary on geoengineering. I know that's hard.
People have proposed blocking out sunlight to reverse global warming, to reduce the amount of energy on the planet. And the ideas that are most being looked at are putting a cloud in the stratosphere like volcanoes do, or brightening clouds over the ocean. There are many risks involved with these, and there's no technology today to do it. But if it would work, it might cool the planet and reverse some of the negative aspects of global warming. The solution to global warming is mitigation, reducing the greenhouse gases that are causing global warming, carbon dioxide, methane, and the others. And that's the solution. It has to be done as quickly as possible. Absent that working, then one of the things we have to do is adapt to climate change. And absent that, there'll be suffering. Now, people have talked about something called geoengineering, which is either taking the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere after we put it in. That's called carbon dioxide reduction. That's probably a good idea. It's kind of expensive now, but that's not really that controversial. The other idea is blocking out the sunlight, and this would have a lot of risks associated with it, but it should not be done as a substitute for mitigation. It should be done only if mitigation doesn't work and we're reaching some sort of dangerous climate change that we might want to reduce temporarily while we get mitigation and carbon dioxide reduction under control. No, nobody is advocating geoengineering in the absence of mitigation. It's only added on to more efficiency, more conservation, more wind and solar, and because the carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for a long time, there's still going to be a certain amount of climate change. I don't even know whether it's a good idea. There's a risk to global warming, there's a risk to doing geoengineering, and we're still in early days of comparing the risks and see whether geoengineering would be even riskier than not doing it. We couldn't do it tomorrow because we don't have the technology. So the first thing to do would be to try and build a fleet of airplanes and an infrastructure producing enough sulfur so that we could go up into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere, and spray sulfur out and create a cloud. We don't have the technology to do that. Some people say it's cheap and easy, but it's never been done, and so it would take a major development effort to develop the infrastructure to do that on a routine basis. The other idea is a fleet of ships in the ocean, perhaps autonomous, that would be powered by the wind and would take out seawater and turn into salt and spray salt into the clouds and making them brighter. Even if we could have a fleet of ships spraying salt into the atmosphere, we don't know if it would cool the planet. It might brighten some clouds, but it might have upward motion. You might have sinking next to it, and those clouds would evaporate, and the net effect might be more absorption of sunlight. We don't know what the pattern and the amount of salt and the types of clouds to see. That's an unanswered question. We don't know if we spray sulfur into the stratosphere, whether, rather than creating a lot of small particles, which would be effective at scattering sunlight, we might make larger particles. And instead of making more, we would make larger ones. The larger ones would be less effective at scattering sunlight and would fall out of the atmosphere faster. And you might have to do 10 times the amount that we would do if they didn't grow. And we may never even be able to put enough sulfur up to really be very effective. So those are unanswered questions, whether it's even possible. I have a list of 26 reasons why geoengineering might be a bad idea. So I'll mention a few of them. One of them is it would destroy ozone. Because there's chlorofluorocarbons in the atmosphere and will be for decades to come,
on the surfaces of these cloud droplets, they would release chlorine and it would destroy ozone, and we'd get more ultraviolet radiation reaching the surface.
All right, so definitely going to end it on this. This last thing I'm going to show right now, with the description of how things work and the risk projections that they talk about. Looking while I was listening, I was looking for this article. It states 1.4 trillion spending bills that Congress passed this week include little notice provisions setting aside at least $4 billion in national ocean and atmospheric administration to conduct stratospheric monitoring and research efforts. The program indicates assessments of solar climate interventions, and including the proposal to inject material into the stratosphere to affect the climate. President Trump, obviously the article's old, President Trump is extended to sign the swapping, for whatever that word is, bills today and related. So even with the risks, they still do the research. They're not supposed to do the research yet. But that's what's happening. I just wanted to show you that the government, even with risk assessments, still are looking for quick fixes, and that is ultimately what I disagree with. We need to step it up and realize we're not going to fix it. We're going to just start helping fixing it. There is no quick fix. Yeah, I know, Blue. $4 billion isn't a lot, but $4 million for a project to do something that is already has a risk assessment of danger seems to make no sense to me at all. That's the reality of it. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not trillions into geoengineering, but why spend $4 million into researching something that doesn't work? That doesn't make sense to me. It's another Band-Aid to make it look like you're doing something. That's just me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end it with that because otherwise it's just going to be back and forth. I'm tired.
I am too. I want to take a nap. So
that's what I'm thinking. All right, people. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Shawn, I appreciate you being here, my friend, as always. I'm more than welcome here all the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And, I really enjoyed the topic because, like especially right now, it's freaking 97 degrees out and it sucks. But, that's how it is.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, there's so much more to talk about. Like we could have a conversation just about the small details of what's happening that's different from last year. That would be a whole conversation. It's a fun conversation. There's so much more. There's going to be a lot more of it. I do want to thank Omni as trying as it is to have a conversation with him. I did enjoy it, and I did appreciate him being here to have it. I do apologize for the scattergunness of that. I didn't expect it to be like that, so I was kind of caught off guard with the conversation without listening. It was weird, but
I think you had a monologue that you wanted to do in your head, and he was just so eager to get started, and so it threw you off a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But like Travis said, we talked past each other a lot, and I don't feel like it was my fault. But that's just me. Just me. Travis, thank you for being on, man. I know you're doing your thing right now. But I do appreciate it. I will be reviewing your videos, and I'm going to make Tex review them with me. And then I will be getting back to you on my response to those. I may not do the second one, Travis. I don't want to beat dead horses. We've already discussed that one, the second video, so we're not going to. But the first one for sure. Tex, thank you. I am so happy you're here, and if anyone knew, like seriously, like we were up bullshitting talking until like 3 a.m. So like waking up to do this was a big ask. So I do appreciate it.
It was hell. It was hell.
I do appreciate it.
No, I was already up.
Yeah, but you
could
have been napping.
That's also true.
So thank you very much. I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'm going to close this out and stop rambling. I think I rambled enough today. Alrighty, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Okay.
Move this. All right, people. Thank you guys for being here. I know there was a lot of chaos in certain situations. It does happen, but that is the nature of the beast. I do appreciate everyone for being here. Blue, thank you. Real. Let me see what else is in here. Real. Gigi, what's up? Welcome to the channel. TexLex. Gary. Yeah, everyone's here. Manny, what's up, man? And then Jose. Jose, man, I'm telling you right now, everyone wants you on here. What's up? Let me see. Travis is back. What's up, Travis?
Sorry about that. I had a rider, so I had to go offline.
Oh, no worries. I was actually ending the stream.
But I had so much to say.
Say it, man. Just what do you want to say?
Well, it'll just be brief. But what was making me think about this whole geoengineering thing was like this. You know, we have to take drastic measures. I really do think, but it's like someone going into the doctor and saying, "I need to change my health," and the doctor says, "Okay, well, what are you doing?" And I'm eating this, I'm drinking all the time, I'm not exercising, da da da. And the doctor says, okay, here's what you got to do. You got to stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. And the guy goes, yeah. I want to keep doing that, but I want you to like, that's what it's like. That's how stupidly simple this is. Like, if you want this fucking CO2 thing to go away, stop industrialization. They're like, yeah. But we still want to make billions of money. How can we do that?
Exactly. And that is the equation. That is the one part of the equation that keeps making people scratch their head. Because if they just stopped expecting that money, we could actually start solving some shit.
But at the same time, hold on now.
Solutions.
Right. But hold on now, because there are those people out there who'll be like, okay, you're going to have to give up your phone, give up your internet, give up this, that. They're like, yeah. But how can I keep all of that and still get rid of CO2? Like, you know what I mean? Like, no. You're the problem. Even though the industry created the need or the supply and demand, right? Nobody needed an iPhone until somebody created the iPhone. And now everybody needs it, depends on the iPhone. And they're like, you've got to get up the iPhone. You're like, yeah. But tell me how to not do that. It's just like, you have to get rid of this stuff. You do. Like each individual person, you have to eliminate this shit from your life.
Yes, because the main part about that is that's why I know human nature. That's why I feel like we need to stop playing this. We're going to fix it. Because like you said, you can say we're going to fix it, but if you're not going to give up something, then there's no fix. We need to be adapting. We need to start acting as if shit's going to get worse because we are assholes and we do have a lot to do with what's happening, Omni. We need to start adapting. We need to start putting our money towards adapting to the situation rather than playing we can magically fix and control because it's not reality. It's not how it works. We can't keep trying to play God is what it is. It's my opinion. I am going to get out of here, Travis. Did you want to say anything, promote anything? Did you hear me say that I watched your videos?
Yeah, you said that at the beginning. Yep.
Yeah. I have watched. I don't think I need to review the second one. The Anacapa Island ones, the fishing boat. I don't feel like we need to go there.
No, the one that has the arrows pointing to the horizon, I can't remember which ones I sent you, but you should watch both.
I did. I watched both of them. The ones with the arrow is the one I definitely want to talk about. I
okay,
absolutely
good.
want to talk about that.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Maybe Monday. Monday. You want to do that Monday?
I work from like 5 until now, typically doing Uber. So if you want to plan it for later on in the day, that's fine with me.
Okay. Well, I'll hit you up and see what's going on. But yeah, that one I did enjoy. I did think that had something to talk about. Like I said, the second one, the Anacapa Island ones, I don't really want to go to Anacapa Islands with you, Travis. I don't like that. I don't like that time period in our relationship.
All right, whatever makes you happy, Sean. You're the host.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that. Go check out the Plain Truth. That's his channel. Plain Truth 2.0. There you go. I remember this time. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end this so I can get the hell out of here because I'm gonna keep rambling and I'll ramble with you all day. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna stop. I'm done. No more rambling. Absolutely, Gigi. That's what the channel's here for, to just have open discord about thoughts. Any conspiracy theory, thought, concern, doesn't matter. Just a place to discuss it. And luckily for me, guys like Blue Marble Science in the chat, these guys are PhDs. These guys are physics engineers. These guys are, I have a lot of really smart people in my circles to help me understand these things. So it's a great place to try to understand these things that mainstream people don't really get to understand, because I don't, and they have helped me get through a lot of understanding situations. So I thank them very much. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm ranting, and if I don't stop, I will continue to do it over and over again. So with that being said, I love you.
Disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and the pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of Ritalin. I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the gas. No time to wait though. Elon Musk, I'm trying to bankroll. New Tesla just cause I say so. Electric whip like Ivan Van Gogh. I just did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice. I'm bad, she bad, but she totally nice. News are blue and a toast like white. They completely match out at the soul for my leg. He knew it for sure, but